An easy-peasy history of the UK. Ah, the United Kingdom. The birthplace of the Beatles. Home of double-decker buses, countless pubs, and the royal family. Not to mention Shakespeare. All of that sounds pretty great, right? Well, it is. It really is. Oh, did we mention British rock and roll? What about Harry Potter? And the birthplace of golf and soccer. But how did the United Kingdom become the UK we know and love? A place where David Bowie could also be Ziggy Stardust? Easy peasy! Let's look at some history and figure it out. In 6000 BCE, water levels begin to rise, which separates part of the landmass of mainland Europe and creates the British Isles. Not too bad, rising sea levels. It's already a pretty cool place. So much so that in 2200 BCE, the construction of Stonehenge is completed. It's one of the oldest monuments in the world, older even than the Egyptian pyramids, which is extra impressive considering that most of it still stands today. Its origins and purpose may still remain a topic of discussion, but it's definitely one of the coolest henges around. In 600 BCE, the Celtic peoples begin to arrive and establish their cultures, which is all great and good until 43 CE, when the Roman Empire invades Britain and makes Britannia a Roman province. But the Romans were pretty good with roads, and they introduced sausages to the UK, which are still a really popular food in Britain. So life wasn't too bad. The Romans actually found the city Londinium in 50 CE, which later becomes London. Yep, the London that you can visit today and order some fish and chips. Easy peasy. In 122 CE, Roman Emperor Hadrian orders the construction of Hadrian's Wall. This is a stone wall that ran from the North Sea to the Irish Sea, from one British coast to the other. The wall is still mostly standing today and can make a nice summer bike trip if you're into that sort of thing. In 410 CE, the Romans finally leave Britain, which makes room for the Anglo-Saxons to arrive in 450 CE. They pretty much rule everything until the Vikings show up. The Vikings invade in 866 with a large army and defeat the Kingdom of Northumbria in Britain. But in 926, the Saxons finally defeat the Vikings and reclaim some of their land. In 1066, William the Conqueror does what he's most famous for, and, well, conquers part of Britain in the Normandy conquest. He builds the Tower of London, a place famous for locking boy princes away and for housing ravens. Because legend says if the ravens of the Tower of London ever leave, the tower will fall and Britain with it. We definitely don't want that. In 1298, William Wallace, famous Scot from the movie Braveheart, is defeated in battle. This is not a spoiler if you've already seen the movie, which it's not a recent film, so you probably have seen it. In 1337, the 100 Years' War between England and France begins. And it lasts, you guessed it, over 100 years, not being resolved until 1453. But in the meantime, the Black Death strikes England in 1349 and kills a large portion of the English population. And by a large portion, we mean close to 60%, and in some places even more, of the population of Europe died within 4 years. Let's not have a repeat of that, please. In 1445, the War of the Roses begins and ends when Henry Tudor is crowned King Henry VII. Following him, of course, is King Henry VIII, who is famous for marrying and divorcing a lot of women. Oh, and also chopping off some of their heads. In 1558, Queen Elizabeth is crowned, ushering in the Elizabethan era. The Elizabethan era is known as the Golden Age because things go so well for the UK. The age is one of peace and prosperity, and England's wealth grows. And in 1591, William Shakespeare starts writing the plays we all know and love. There's still a lot of controversy about who William Shakespeare actually was, but most everyone can agree that his plays and sonnets are pretty great. Not to mention, he added over 3,000 words to the English language. Easy peasy. The British East India Company is found in 1600. This leads to centuries of colonization and rule of the Indian subcontinent. It's why today so many British people like to eat curry, and why tikka masala becomes such a popular national dish. In 1620, the Pilgrims set sail on the Mayflower for America, the New World. The American colonies would belong to Britain until they took their independence in 1776, becoming their own nation. Tough luck, Britain! In 1837, Queen Victoria is crowned, ushering in, you guessed it, the Victorian Age, famous for the first photograph, gas lighting, the first postage stamp, with Queen Victoria's face on it, and industrialization. She would also survive over 7 assassination attempts. Easy peasy. World War I breaks out in 1914, or as it was called then, the Great War, because surely no war would ever be as great as that one. Almost 1 million soldiers of Britain and its colonies died because of the war. Unfortunately, World War II is just around the corner in 1939, which would bring another 150,000 UK soldier deaths and over 300,000 civilian deaths. In 1952, Elizabeth II is crowned queen, and she's still the queen today. She's the queen that just keeps on keeping on. She has children and grandchildren, and now great-grandchildren. And yet she's still wearing the crown, her picture printed on the paper money, petting corgis all day long. Sounds like a pretty good gig, to be honest. Today, the British drink 163 million cups of tea daily. The UK has 4 surviving ancient languages: Scottish Gaelic, Irish Gaelic, Welsh, and Breton. If you're on the island of Britain, you're never more than 70 miles away from the sea. And the UK invented soccer. Good job there, old boys! Tourists can visit the Big Ben, Stonehenge, or Loch Ness, not to mention castles, forts, and the River Thames. Good job, United Kingdom! If you loved learning about the history of the UK, it's easy peasy to click to subscribe.